fault. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Badass woman in her history. Today we're going to talk about the Mirabal sisters. There were 4 sisters from the Dominican Republic, 3 of whom opposed the dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo, or El Jefe. They were Patria, Minerva, and Maria Teresa, and were involved in clandestine activities against his regime. The 3 sisters were assassinated on November 25th, 1960. And there's a lot of assassinations in the 60s. The last sister, Adela, who was not involved in political activities at the time, died of natural causes on February 1st, 2014. Of the sisters, Minerva was the one who had the most active role in politics, being the founder of the June 14th Revolutionary Movement, together with her husband, Manolo Tavares Justo. Maria Teresa also became involved in the movement. The second oldest sister, Patria, did not have the same level of political activity as her other sisters, but she supported them. She lent her house to store weapons and tools from the insurgents. They are considered national heroines of the Dominican Republic. Their remains rest in a mausoleum that was declared an extension of the National Pantheon located in the Hermanas Mirabal House Museum, the last residence of the sisters. I was like, what does that sound? It's an aeroplane. Alright. The assassinations turned the Mirabal sisters into symbols of both popular and feminist resistance. In 1999, in their honor, the United Nations General Assembly designated November 25th as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And this is International Women's Month. Shout out to women. The Mirabal sisters, they were a family from the Cibao region of the Dominican Republic, had a farm in the village of Ojo de Agua near the town of Salcedo. Their parents, Enrique Mirabal Fernandez and Mercedes Reyes Camilo, were landowners in the area. All 4 sisters attended primary school in their village, Ojo de Agua, Eye of Water, and maybe Blue Eye, and attended a Catholic boarding school, El Colegio de la Inmaculada, for their secondary education in the city of La Vega. Once Rafael Trujillo took power, it was customary to have a picture of him in their household, in your household. However, the Mirabal house never had a picture of Trujillo and were subsequently considered dissidents by the Trujillo regime. Sorry. When Trujillo came to power, the family lost almost their entire fortune. The sisters, especially Minerva, believed that the dictatorship was ruining the country. So they participated in the creation and organization of the June 14th Revolutionary Movement. Speaking of revolutions, Piccadilly, if you watched the whole episode. Within this group, they were known as La Mariposas. Not bad, cool name. So their house is a museum now. 2 of the sisters, Minerva and Maria Teresa, were imprisoned on several occasions in both La Victoria and La Cuarenta prisons. They and their husbands were subjected to cruel torture during the Trujillo regime. Despite these facts, they continued to fight against the dictatorship. Green light's dead. I just need to buy a separate light. Know what I'm saying? So Patria Mercedes Mirabal Reyes. She was born February 27th. She was an Aquarius. passed November 25th, 1960, commonly known as Patria, was the oldest of the four Mirabal sisters. When she was 14, she was sent by her parents to a Catholic boarding school, Colegio Inmaculada Concepción in La Vega. She left school when she was 17 and married Pedro González, a farmer who would later aid her in challenging the Trujillo regime. Patria had 3 children. She once said, "We cannot allow our children to grow up in this corrupt and tyrannical regime. We have to fight against it, and I'm willing to give up everything, even my life if necessary." Belgica Adela Mirabal Reyes. So, commonly known as Didi, was the second daughter. She did not go to college. Instead, she became the traditional homemaker and helped her father with the family business. The Mirabal patriarch Enrique died after his political imprisonment, and Didi, or Dede, took over the family finances. She did not become involved with her sister's political work. After the murder of her sisters, Didi took care of the children and raised them. Between 92 and 94, Dede started the Mirabal Sisters Foundation and the Mirabal Sisters Museum to continue her sister's legacy. Okay. Dede was the last surviving sister of the family. She died at the age of 88 and professed her entire life that it was her destiny to survive, so she was able to tell her story. Maria Argentina Minerva Mirabal Reyes. Born March 12th, 1926. Her birthday just passed. Happy late birthday. She also passed on November 25th, 1960, commonly known as Minerva. She was the third daughter at the age of 12. She followed Patria to the Colegio Inmaculada Concepción. In 1949, the Mirabal family was invited to a party of the local elite where Minerva first caught the eye of Rafael Trujillo. So much so that the Mirabals were invited to a different party by Trujillo himself. Oh, scary. At this party, Trujillo made more sexual advances toward Minerva, who slapped him in the face because of this. After Minerva's rejection of Trujillo, her parents prohibited Minerva from registering for law school due to concerns that she would get involved in politics and ultimately be killed. However, after seeing how upset Minerva was, her parents relented 6 years later, and she enrolled at the University of Santo Domingo, where she later graduated summa cum laude. I don't know what that means. I need to look that up. Summa cum laude. Minerva was the first woman to graduate from law school in the Dominican Republic. Wow. Due to her previous rejection of Trujillo's advances, when Minerva graduated, her diploma was stripped of her honors and her license to practice law was ultimately turned down. That's fucked up. Hater, man. He's a hater. At university, she met her husband, Manolo Tavares Justo, who would help her fight the Trujillo regime. Minerva was the most vocal and radical of the Mirabal daughters. I mean, I would be too. After he made advances, she slapped him and that he took away her license. According to the theologian Nancy Pineda Madrid, she was arrested and harassed on multiple occasions on orders given by Trujillo himself. According to the historian Bernard Diedrich, Minerva Mirabal was arrested twice. She was first jailed in January 1960 at the start of the wave of repression of 1J4 members, where hundreds of 1J4 members were rounded up and tortured. She once said, "It is a source of happiness to do whatever can be done for one country that suffers so many anguishes. It is sad to say that with one's arms crossed." Antonia Maria Teresa Mirabal Reyes was born October 15th, 1935 and passed on November 25th, 1960. She was the fourth and youngest. She attended the Colegio Inmaculada Concepción, graduated from the Liceo de San Francisco de Macorís in 1954, and went on to the University of Santo Domingo. where she studied mathematics. Later in her life, Maria Teresa dated Leandro Guzman. While dating, before Leandro was allowed to hold Maria Teresa's hand, she asked him how his family felt about Trujillo. Leo responded, "There's no problem. At home, that was the first thing I learned, to hate Trujillo." After this response, Maria Teresa let him hold her hand, and they eventually married after she finished her education. Maria Teresa was influenced by her older sister Minerva's political views and was involved in the clandestine activities against Trujillo's regime. As a result, she was harassed and arrested on the direct orders of Trujillo. She greatly admired her older sister Minerva and became passionate about Minerva's political views. She once said, "Perhaps what we have most near is death, but that idea does not frighten me. We shall continue to fight for that which is just." Damn. So whenever they're attending the college, Minerva discovered her friend Diesi Ariza's father was killed by Trujillo for opposing the regime. This event, along with many others, ultimately influenced Minerva's fight against the regime. She became involved in the political movement against Trujillo, who was the country's official president from 1930 to 1938, and from 1942 to 52, but ruled behind the scenes as a dictator from 1930 until his assassination in 1961. Wow. Minerva's sisters followed her into the movement. First, Maria Teresa, who joined after staying at Minerva's house and learning about her activities. And then Patria, who joined after witnessing a massacre by some of Trujillo's men while on a religious retreat. Dede did not join in, partly because her husband, Jaimito, did not want her to. He said, no. Sorry, shouldn't joke. The husbands of Minerva, Maria Teresa, and Patria were among the leaders of the 14th of June movement, nicknamed 1J4. The movement was created in support and in honor of the Dominican rebels who were killed while attempting to overthrow the Rafael Trujillo regime. Everyone in the family, including Patria's teenage children, helped distribute pamphlets about the many people whom Trujillo had killed and obtain materials for guns and bombs to use when they eventually openly revolted. Within the group, the sisters called themselves the Las Mariposas, after Minerva's underground name. The secret movement was discovered weeks after its founding, leading to Patria's house, where the group met, being burned to the ground, and Maria Teresa and Minerva's arrest. In 1960, Minerva and Maria Teresa were incarcerated from January 22nd to February 7th, then from May 18th to August 9th. They were not tortured thanks to mounting international opposition to Trujillo's regime. Patria was never arrested, but her husband and son were jailed. The three husbands were incarcerated in January at La Victoria Penitentiary in Santo Domingo, and then in November, two of them were transferred to Puerto Plata. In 1960, the Organization of American States condemned Trujillo's actions and sent observers. Minerva and Maria Teresa were freed, but their husbands remained in prison. On a remembrance website, Learn to Question, the author writes, "No matter how many times Trujillo jailed them, no matter how much of their property and possessions he seized, Minerva, Patria, and Maria Teresa refused to give up on their mission to restore democracy and civil liberties to the island nation." Assassination. On November 25th, 1960, Patria, Minerva, Maria Teresa, and their driver, Rufino de la Cruz, were visiting Maria Teresa and Minerva's incarcerated husbands. Patria's husband was not incarcerated, but she went along for moral support. On the way home, they were stopped by Trujillo's henchmen. The sisters and de la Cruz were separated, strangled, and clubbed to death. The bodies were then gathered and put in their jeep, which was run off the mountain road in an attempt to make their deaths look like an accident. After Trujillo was assassinated on 30th of May 1961, General Pupo Roman admitted to having personal knowledge that the sisters were killed by Victor Alicinio Peña Rivera, Trujillo's right-hand man, along with Kiriao Grialco de la Rosa, Ramón Emilio Rojas, Alfonso Cruz Valeria, and Emilio Estrada Maleta, members of his secret police force. As to whether Trujillo ordered the killings or whether the secret police acted on his own, one historian wrote, "We know orders of this nature could not come from any authority lower than national sovereignty. That was none other than Trujillo himself. Still less could it have been taking place without his assent." Also, one of the murders, Iriaquiao de la Rosa, said, "I tried to prevent the disaster, but I could not, because if I had, he, Trujillo, would have killed us all." Aftermath. And I should have brought more water. So, according to Bernard Dieterich, the sisters' assassinations had greater effect on Dominicans than most of Trujillo's other crimes. The killings, he wrote, did something to their machismo and paved the way for Trujillo's own assassination 6 months later. Whoa. However, the details of the Mirabal sisters' assassinations were treated gingerly at the official level until 1996, when President Joaquin Balaguer was forced to step down after more than 2 decades in power. Balaguer was Trujillo's protege and had been the president at the time of the assassinations in 1960, though at the time he distanced himself from General Trujillo and initially carved out a more moderate political stance. A review of the history curriculum in public schools in 1997 recognized the Mirabals as national martyrs. The post-Balaguer era has been marked increase in homages to the Mirabal sisters, including an exhibition of their belongings at the National Museum of History and Geography in Santo Domingo. After the assassinations, the surviving sister Dede devoted her life to the legacy of her sisters. She raised their 6 kids, including Minao Tavares Mirabal, Minerva's daughter, who served as deputy of the National District in the lower house of the Dominican Congress since 2002 and was deputy foreign minister before that from 1996 to 2000. Of Dede's own children, Jaime David Fernandez Mirabal was the Minister of Environment and Natural Resources and a former vice president of the Dominican Republic. She, in 92, Dede created the Mirabal Sisters Foundation, and in 94, she opened the museum in their hometown, Salcedo. She published a book, Vivas en su Jardín, on the 25th of August, 2009. She lived in the house in Salcedo where the sisters were born until her death in 2014, aged 88. Wow. We could have go there, the museum. Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And yeah, that's from Wikipedia. I know a lot of people don't like Wikipedia, but shit, respect. Alright, man, we're gonna find a beat and bust the flow. What you know.